Welcome to another week of your NFL picks straight up and versus the spread. This time for week 12 of the 2024 NFL season. It's Mitch here, fired up for another week of NFL action and NFL picks. A couple weeks ago, I said, man, enough of this mumbo jumbo baloney. Enough of this playing around. You guys called me out and I responded with a couple good weeks in a row. So we're going to keep it going, keep it flowing. We've been better on our spread picks, our straight up picks. We've been flowing with our best bets. Patreon, we've been making money. So let's get going, man. Let's have some fun. Let's pick some football games. Don't forget to spike the like button. And for some reason, a lot of you have not subscribed. I noticed that this video, more than any other video, gets the most views on my channel every single week. And I know that a number of you are not subscribed. So make sure to support your boy and subscribe for weekly NFL picks, best bets, and more. I did just release a nice little discussion rant video about the Houston Texans and why I believe they may be the Super Bowl dark horse this season. I'm going to play around and maybe release a few more of those videos. I was thinking the next one might be on the Buffalo Bills, but you guys let me know in the comment section below if you'd like me to talk about a specific team. I'll definitely think about it and see if it's worthwhile. Let's get started with our NFL Week 12 selections, but before we do, let's just check out how we've done for the season. So, our straight up record is now 102-63. Spread record is 87-76-3. We went 9-5 both versus the spread and straight up. A couple of our picks, our underdog picks, did not fall. The Bengals failed to come back against the Chargers. We once again tried to pick the Jets and they failed, but other than that, I don't really regret. Honestly, I don't really regret any of my picks last week. Maybe Cleveland, but that game was very bizarre as well. But overall, 9-5 both ways is not too bad. It's still well above 500, so we'll take it. I know that a couple of us in the chat, Big Al did really well last week. Stephanie did well last week. I think Miss Jennifer, shout out to her, did pretty well this past week. So, yeah, let's talk about some picks. Sal Boogie says it's official, Mitch. Bo Nix is better than Drake May. I don't know if you wear glasses, Sal, but you're absolutely delusional. He also says, what's up, Big Al? Going to have to copy your picks this week for Pick'em. We've also got our girl Claire in the chat. We've got the man, the myth, the legend, Cesar Blanco in the chat. We've got the cool James Dean in the chat. Sing, the official picker of the BLV Nation, and Edgar, who says BLV Nation. So let's get started with our picks. Thursday Night Football is the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cleveland Browns. Steelers are favored by 3 and the hook. This game is in Cleveland, an AFC North divisional matchup. I personally think this will be a close game, a dirty game, a grimy football game. And I think that this game very much could be played down to the wire. Pittsburgh just played a physical, brutal, black and blue matchup against the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens, of course, are a team that the Steelers pretty much own at this point. Off the top of my head, I am not too familiar with how the Browns and the Steelers match up on a yearly basis and how Stefanski and the Steelers, I feel like it's been pretty much split every season that I can recall and remember. So I feel like this game will be competitive. The Browns are a very strange team to me because they have their talent. They still have multiple talented players. Myles Garrett up front, Denzel Ward in the back end of the defense. The O-line is fairly healthy. They still got receivers they can get the ball to, like Jerry Jeudy and Elijah Moore. Both had fantastic games. David Njoku, Nick Chubb's back in the backfield. Jameis actually played well last week. Their kicker is like out to lunch, so that's something to look for. And the kicker could end up costing you a cover in this game. I will bring that up. Chris Boswell has been absolute money for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are certainly the better team here, and they certainly deserve to be favored even on the road in a divisional matchup by 3.5. But I do feel like this game is a little tricky and a little sleepy for the Steelers because I think it will be more of a brutal defensive game. I could see the Browns giving Russell Wilson and this Steeler offense a tough time, specifically because they can match up with George Pickens, Denzel Ward specifically. I think they can probably slow down the rushing attack of Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. And I feel like they can get a little bit of pressure from Myles Garrett from that edge rush after Russell Wilson. On the flip side, Jameis Winston is also one of those quarterbacks where you feel like you're in the game the whole time if you like the points and you like the underdog. You feel like you're in the game the whole time, but then he might make a mistake. He might get strip sacked. He might throw the ball to the other team. There might be a interception for a touchdown. I could see this going either way on the spread. I could see the Steelers winning like 20-17. I could see the Steelers winning like 24-17 or like 27-17 or something like that. I could also see the Browns maybe even winning this game, believe it or not, just because it's a divisional game and it's also on the road. Typically, Thursday Night Football slightly lean towards the home teams because it's a short week and you've got to travel there and all that sort of stuff. Cleveland also, I feel like, has been playing a little bit better than the scores. Like last week, for example, they had about 400 total yards against the Saints, and somehow you look up at the score and it's a blowout. I do look at the Browns O-line. They've been missing some pieces all year. I know that DeJuan Jones got hurt last game. I'm not exactly sure if he's going to be in this game. I'll have to check the injury report. Let's actually check it right now if there's any key injuries. I don't really know, other than those injuries, if there's any key injuries. I'm kind of just thinking this through with you guys right now, and I'm pretty positive I'm about to pick the Steelers to win the game. I just don't know if I think they're going to win by a field goal, if I think they're going to win by, like, you could very much see this game being 21-17, 24-20, like anywhere in that range makes a lot of sense to me. Alex Highsmith will still remain out. Isaac Seumalo, not injury related, did not practice. I think he'll play. Cameron Hayward, not injury related. Larry Ogunjobi, okay. Browns, do we got anything on the Browns? DeJuan Jones did not practice on Tuesday. There's nothing on Wednesday on this report on Yahoo. I'm going to have to check something else. Myles Garrett also dealing with a hip injury. I feel like he's been dealing with that for weeks. Jedrick Wills also did not practice. Okay, let's check another source here. Can we check Steelers.com? Steelers. Okay. Wednesday. Myles Garrett limited, so he'll probably play. Jedrick Wills limited. He'll probably play. Oh, no, Jedrick Wills is out. Okay, that's interesting. Steelers depth chart. I'm kind of, just because of that injury, I'm kind of leaning towards the Steelers to cover. Just because I feel like if the Browns' tackles aren't healthy, I don't think they're going to be able to hold up the entire game, which is probably going to spoil a chance for them to cover. So, yeah, their left tackle. They're on their backup left tackle. Their defense has kind of been a little underwhelming lately as well. Hit and miss. But this will be an ugly game. I would advise probably staying off of this game as a bet. But I will pick the Steelers to win. I like how they're playing, and I'll pick the Steelers to cover. I feel like they found a little bit of a rhythm offensively. I think their running game has been continuing to get better and better and better. I'd like to see Mike Williams continue to get more involved. And I think their secondary, I think this is the best secondary they've had in quite a while, as well as obviously the best quarterback play or most consistent quarterback play they've had in a while. Like, Steelers fans have kind of been, I have a lot of Steelers fans that watch my content, and it feels like a lot of them are very vocal about how I'm like too low on the team or something like that. it's not that I'm low on the team necessarily. Like, I think I had them 7th in my power rankings. It's more so that from a long-term, like, high-end perspective, I don't view the Steelers above the teams with the elite quarterbacks. And the way I would best describe it is, I think their defense is arguably the best in the NFL. It's in the same conversation, as the Chiefs and the Texans and the Eagles. Those would be the other one, and maybe the Vikings. Those would be the ones I'd probably throw in the top 5. I think they're arguably the best. But when I compare the Steelers, Russell Wilson in the AFC playoffs to even Justin Herbert and the Chargers, I would, lean towards the Chargers. When you look at all the other teams, Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Stroud, like every team entering the playoffs except for maybe the Broncos will have a better quarterback or like a better quarterback like that can go up and just be elite in a game. And as much as Russ used to be that, I don't know if he still is that. So that's kind of my reasoning behind their rankings, because I know a lot of Steelers fans have been critical. So I just want to throw that out there for you guys. Steeler Nation says Tomlin is 0-7 on Thursday Night Football. Ouch. Okay, $2 super chat from Steeler Nation. By the way, thank you so much for the super chat. That is a big stat. I did not know that at all. That is interesting. So maybe. So I'm still going to pick Steelers to win, Steelers to cover, but that makes me nervous. Maybe I should pick the Browns to cover just to split, but maybe I'll pick the Browns to cover just because Steeler Nation gave me that stat and a super chat. So, okay, hold up. We're going to go Steelers to win, Browns to cover, 20-17. Steelers will finally win on Thursday Night Football. Thank you, Steeler Nation, for that stat. That's a good stat, bro. I appreciate that. Yeah, I expect this to be a defensive game. I think it's going to be tough to watch, so don't bet this one. Just stay away from this one. Just enjoy it if you can, possibly, maybe. I don't think you will be able to. All right, let's get to Sunday. Let's go with my New England Patriots at the Miami Dolphins, the former House of Horrors in Miami. Miami is favored by 7 and the hook, so 7.5. Touchdown plus at home against Drake May, the man, the myth, the legend, Drake May, carrying the worst supporting cast in the NFL, literally graded as a 1 out of 100 pass blocking efficiency. Today was updated. I was like, how do you even get to 1? How does that even make sense? Anyways, the New England Patriots are going to cover this game, I think. I think this game will be close because the Patriots really haven't been blown out since Drake May has become the starter. I think the one game you could say was a blowout was the first game he played, which was against the Texans. I think Miami is a solid average team, but I don't think they're like great or anything like that. And I do think this is a divisional game, so both teams are familiar with each other. The Patriots defense actually tends to play fairly well against Miami, despite their underwhelming results as of late. I think Christian Gonzalez has provided to be the best matchup in football as of late against Tyreek Hill. So that's a big part of it. I think that New England getting Christian Barmore back, getting Kyle Duggar back one more week into the defense, getting a little bit of a rust knocked off of them. I do think that the Patriots defensively will be a bit better in this game than expected. I have respected what Tua has brought back to the Miami offense in terms of the rhythm. I think they've been fairly balanced. Jonnu Smith has been on a roll. Jalen Waddle has been silent. If anybody finds him, please let me know. I do think that the Dolphins, though, average team. I think that with the 7.5, you always have a chance for a backdoor opportunity with a quarterback like Drake May. We've actually been kind of on a roll with these Patriots picks. I've been pretty correct as of late with the Patriots and Drake May. And the Patriots offense just continues to get better and better and better. Like last week against LA, a defense that was looking pretty darn good over the last few weeks. The Patriots look good, and it was because of Drake May's precision, his accuracy, his ability to get the ball out, his release, his, just his rhythm and his understanding of the offense. And I do think New England can throw the ball here. I don't think Miami has an overwhelming pass rush. I think their most significant pass rush is on the interior. I do think that New England can move the ball, rather it be on the ground or through the air. I think that Demario Douglas, Hunter Henry, Kendrick Bourne showed some life last week. Ramondre Stevenson's been steady. I think that the Patriots can hang in through their offense. I could see like a 31-24 type of game or like a 27-20 type of game where Miami wins, but I don't think they quite cover. Claire thinks that Dolphins will blow them out. I think you guys are overrating the Dolphins a little bit. I see them as a solid team. I don't see them as a great team. I think their defense is susceptible, and I think the offense it's good, but I don't think it's as dominant as it used to be. So I'm going to lean into Drake May getting points. Probably the feistiest bad team in the NFL right now is the New England Patriots on a weekly basis. So I'll take the Patriots. I mean, look at the Rams game, for example. Like the Rams have a better defense, in my opinion, than Miami, I actually think, but I don't know. They at least have a better pass rush. And New England had a chance right at the end of that game. And I know that I picked the Rams to win and Rams to cover. It was only 4.5. But they ended up having the ball with a chance to win the game with a touchdown in the last drive of the game, despite getting pretty outplayed in that game. And that's Stafford. I feel like Tua, New England knows how to play against Tua. So I'm going to take the Patriots plus the points, but I think Miami will win. I don't think Miami is a team that necessarily has a chance to sneak into the playoffs. I just think I think that their schedule is too difficult. I think that they're a team that's just they're not great in the December area of the schedule, typically because when they travel and they play outdoors and they play teams in the cold, they don't fare as well. They don't play as well. It's not their identity. This is typically a team, if they're going to make the playoffs, they need to kind of stock up on wins early in the season. So I still feel like, yeah, Miami's playing better, and maybe some people want to look at them as potentially a wild card threat, but I just don't really see it because I feel like they're not a good December football team, and I don't know if they've really changed. So Miami to win. They are the better team. They are at home, but I'll take the Patriots because Drake May is a baller to cover the spread. Okay, let's check out the chat real quick. Christian says it's going to be closer than everyone thinks. Claire thinks the Dolphins will blow them out. Christian says, I got the Dolphins in this one. Stephanie's got 30-21 Dolphins. Kyle says, I got the Dolphins winning by at least 10. Division game, though, could be close, still rolling with the Fins. Prestige says that the Steelers are not 0-7 on Thursday Night Football, so maybe Steeler Nation is playing with me. I don't know. Big Al's got the Dolphins 24-21. Miami wins, New England covers. Marcus Hanna's got Patriots upset. Dolphins November Magic, so what those Dolphins are, can we pull out magic? I hate being undefeated by those Dolphins. I get it. It's hard rock, but come on, let's break jinx, please. Marcus Hanna, please complete your sentences, brother, but I appreciate the comment. I will say that I don't think we have that much of a jinx. I don't really know. I feel like, anyways, I don't know off the top of my head how many games in a row we've lost. Obviously, the Patriots have sucked as of late, so I don't really know. Brandon says Patriots 27, Dolphins 3. Wow, okay. Dakota says hello there. What's up, Dakota? Let's get to the next game, which is the Minnesota Vikings at the Chicago Bears. Vikings are favored by 3.5. This is one that I've gone back and forth on, and my gut tells me Vikings win, Bears cover. I could see the Bears winning this game outright, though, and I wouldn't be that shocked. I just think the difference for me is that the Vikings have Brian Flores on defense, and they're playing a rookie quarterback, and I think that ultimately makes up my mind, where I feel like Flores is going to have some good pressures for Caleb. I feel like they're going to be able to blitz Caleb effectively like some teams have, like Houston, New England, etc. There's been teams that have been able to expose Caleb Williams, the Cardinals, because of their blitzing ability against a pretty underwhelming offensive line at picking up stunts and blitzes. So I think the Vikings will win because of their defense, But at the same time, I think the Bears defense matches up fairly well with the Vikings because they're very good in coverage and they're a better pass defense than they're a run defense. I think that Darnold has been a little bit spotty and up and down as of late. And I do think the Bears have provided a boost from Thomas Brown at the offensive coordinator position. We saw the difference he made against the Packers. The Bears should have beat the Packers, in my opinion, if it were not for a blocked field goal at the end of the game. And I honestly felt like they controlled more of that Packers game than Packers fans will let you understand. But I will also say I think the Vikings are the better team, but this is an NFC North divisional matchup. It's on the road. The Vikings are a little bit of a dome team. That scares me a little bit. Caleb, I liked how precise he was against the Packers, how quick he was getting rid of the ball. You know, they were throwing a lot of short passes, a lot of screens, a lot of manufactured touches for guys like DJ Moore. They ran the ball well with Swift. Now, I will say the Vikings are very good against the run, which is going to put more pressure at the end of the day on Caleb. But I expect more of a defensive game. I don't actually think the Vikings will be able to run the ball super effectively. I feel like the Packers were a tough matchup in that regard against the Bears. And I kind of expect the Vikings to be a little bit more like New England in terms of their efficiency running the ball. I think they'll be solid running the ball, but not like absolutely backbreaking. Josh Jacobs seemed to do whatever he wanted in that game in the Green Bay matchup where the Packers are an elite run offense. But the Vikings, since like the last few months, since Aaron Jones kind of got dinged up, it feels like they're not the same rushing offense in my mind. So I'm going to go Vikings 24. No. Let's go ugly. Vikings 17, Bears 16. I'm going to go with that ugly score. I think this is Vikings outdoors, Sam Darnold, couple mistakes, Caleb sacked a lot, but Caleb will try to get the ball out as quick as possible. Defensive battle in Chicago in the NFC North. So I'll take Vikings to win, Bears to cover. We already have a couple of those wins and covers, so hopefully these pay off. These 3.5s, maybe I should be picking the underdogs. I don't know, bro, but that's just kind of the sense I get. All right, before the next game, Stephanie says 21-17 for the Vikings. So she's got Vikings to win, Vikings to cover. Claire says, ooh, I like the ugly score prediction. Kyle says third straight road game for the Vikings, third straight home game for the Bears. I got the Bears, not confident in a tight one. Okay, Kyle, yeah, I could definitely see that. I'm not going to lie about that one. Big Al says Vikings 27, Bears 20, Minnesota wins and covers. All right. Christian says Vikings are the better team, both sides of the ball, in my opinion. I agree. But I do think the Bears, I am buying into the offensive coordinator change. I think they got a little bit of a spark there offensively. And I think they just have a little bit more buy-in. The offensive line's a little bit healthier. I think this is going to be a tight game, man. I just do the way the Vikings are playing. The Vikings are kind of pulling a Niners right now where they're kind of outplaying everybody, but every score is close. You know what I mean? So that's how I think. All right, next. We've got the Dallas Cowboys at the Washington Commanders. Washington favored by 10.5, which is something I didn't think I would see all season before the season. But also, I don't know if I've seen Washington favored by more than 10 in like, I don't know how many years it's been. I don't know. But especially against Dallas, the Commanders 10.5. Now, I'm going to say this, and I know that people are going to hate me, and that's the way it goes, but I honestly think right now Jaden Daniels is probably the most overrated football player on earth, but that's just my opinion, I guess. I feel like the last month he hasn't played very well at all. Like, the Eagles, I didn't think he played well. We were on the Eagles. I thought the Eagles, kind of made him be a check down Charlie as usual. I thought he didn't play that well against the Steelers. I didn't even really think he played that well against the Giants. And then they fluked off a game against the Bears on a Hail Mary. So personally, I think this like Jaden Daniels hype train has kind of gotten a little bit out of control. And maybe it's coming back down to earth, but it's correlated with Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff Kingsbury, a coach that typically falls off over the last half of the season. Typically, we see a trend where Cliff starts off very well offensively, and then his offenses die down at the end of the season. So we're seeing correlation between Jaden Daniels playing worse and the offense being less productive. People are saying it's because Daniels is hurt, but I don't necessarily know how big of a deal that's been. But so you combine a rookie Wall potentially with an offensive coordinator losing his bag of tricks. That is something that concerns me when I have a 10.5 point favorite who over the last month has not been playing at the same offensive level as we're accustomed to early in the year, which is probably where this 10.5 is coming from. The offensive line of the Commanders is pretty solid. I don't think they're going to get overwhelmed by Dallas, but Dallas I do think has played a little bit better on defense as of late. I mean, they didn't play terrible against the Texans. I think they're still competing. Micah Parsons helps a little bit. I don't know if they'll have their corners back. Deron Bland, I don't think so. Maybe Jordan Lewis, I'm not sure. Offensively, Cooper Rush wasn't awful against Houston, but still they didn't result in a lot of points. Like, they were moving the ball okay against one of the better defenses in the league, but it didn't really result in results, really. I think Aubrey missed a field goal, if I'm not mistaken, and then they had a 4th and 2 where they weren't able to convert, and those things could have made the game a little bit closer. Like, maybe they got to 20 points there if they were able to do that. This game's also in Washington. You got to think of the Dan Quinn versus Mike McCarthy matchup. Both of these coaches are familiar with each other. I do wonder how much Dallas playing on Thanksgiving in the week following has something to do with potentially how Dallas may treat this game, whether they'll be all in to win this game or whether they'll be kind of resting up or, players just making business decisions because they've got to play a big marquee primetime game on the Thursday, which is where their season's over at this point. So how much effort are they really going to put into this game as opposed to that Thanksgiving game? I think that does sort of matter to a certain degree. What else? I think Washington's defense it's okay. I think it's solid. I think they're well coached. They play hard every week. They've had 10 days to prepare for this game. But I do think you can run on them. So maybe a prospect of Dallas getting a run game going just a little bit, right? I think Washington is like 31st against the run in yards per attempt or in the bottom 3 or 4. So I think Dallas could run it just a little bit. That might help Cooper Rush stabilize the offense instead of their backup quarterback having to throw the ball 40 times. CeeDee Lamb, as long as his head's on straight, I feel like we'll have a pretty good game here. And I did actually like how Dallas was using a lot of their different tight ends and things, but it does feel like Ferguson will be out of the game. Ultimately, I definitely think Washington will win. I'm just kind of like contemplating whether I think they'll cover. 10.5 is a big number for a team that I'm not exactly sure is playing their best football. But they have had 10 days to rest, and I kind of think that there's a quality in Dallas that makes me believe they're somewhat quitting across the board. But I don't necessarily think that... I could see a game where this is close. I could also see a game where Washington runs away with it, so it's kind of hard to say. It is. I want to take the number. I want to take the 10.5. So I'll lean towards taking the points with Dallas. I don't feel good about it, though, even at 10.5, just because the offense of Dallas has been just lacking balance and offensive line play all year. I'm not exactly sure what the offensive line will look like on Sunday, but I kind of feel like a 30-20 or like a 27-17 is pretty possible here. So I lean towards the cover because anything can happen in a divisional game, especially at this point in the season. But I'm not sure. I lean towards the cover. I'm going to go Commanders win, but I just don't love how they're playing either right now. So I'll take Cowboys to cover, I guess. That one's gross. Next, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the New York Giants. Guys, if you haven't already, Gronk, spike the like button. Share this picks video with your friends. Tampa Bay at Danny DeVito, Tommy DeVito, and the New York Giants. The Italian Stallion has returned to New York. I'm going to go check out the comments before I pick this game. Jay Peasy says 31-13 Commanders. Big Al's got 31-14 Commanders. Cowboys Washington wins and covers. This is my lock of the week. Your lock of the week on Straight Up. Dakota says, actually, I take it back. Divisional games are always unpredictable. Donald says, ground spike the like button. Thank you, Donald. Kyle says, I got the Commanders, but the spread is a bit big, I think, for a divisional game. Cowboys cover. Edgar says 10.5 is way too much. Christian says this game is going to be ugly. The game is going to be like the Lions played the Cowboys. Commanders are blowing out the Cowgirls. All right. Interesting. Okay, so this one I think is injury dependent for Tampa Bay. So Mike Evans returns this week. He has been practicing. Tristan Wirfs has also been limited in practice, but he may or may not play, so just be aware of that. Jamel Dean could return for the Bucs as well. They did recently sign Mike Edwards. I'd expect him to contribute and play right away because he's familiar with Todd Bowles' system. He has been kind of on the sidelines for the Bills all season. I think he'll help their safety rotation. I would also say that, I think it's McCollum Zion McCollum, right? Is his name, his first name? McCollum is a kid that has been playing amazing at corner. He got banged up. He might be out of this game. So they might have Jamel Dean back, but McCollum out. So be aware of that. Hopefully McCollum can go. I didn't check today whether he practiced, but I'm pretty sure he is banged up. And what else? Well, Godwin's out for the year, so that still remains the same. For the Giants, they had a bye week, so they're pretty much at the same spot where they were. They just switched their quarterbacks. The Giants have a few questions in terms of, like, did they put DeVito in because they think he actually is better than Drew Lock or because they want to lose? Like, that's a legitimate question because on the surface, I would say Drew Lock is better than DeVito. And they paid Drew Lock to be the backup. So you wonder why they're starting DeVito. Is it because of ticket sales? Is it because of team interest, jersey sales? Like, why? Because he was such a big story last year. I feel like that plays a role in a team that's disgustingly awful and is probably going to have a top 3 pick and probably is going to pick a quarterback. So you wonder if the owner kind of stepped in and said, hey, we got to play DeVito because at least fans like him. He'll sell jerseys and he can help us lose at the same time. You know, I think that he was completely overblown with his play last year. I didn't think he played well outside of maybe one game against the Packers. I think Tampa is about to go on a little bit of a run because you look at their schedule. They play the Panthers twice. I think they still get the Saints. I think they've got a pretty weak schedule just overall. And if they can get back into this thing, this game is massive for them. Atlanta is slipping, and Atlanta plays a tough schedule. Claire knows it coming up. So if Tampa can pick up some wins, they might actually get themselves back in this NFC South conversation. The reason I'm going to take the Bucs is because Baker has just been one of the best quarterbacks in football, and I don't think enough people respect Baker Mayfield. I think that Baker Mayfield is a top 10 quarterback right now in the NFL. Mike Evans back, I think, helps their vertical passing game, which is something that the Giants have struggled with all year long. The Bucs have a good offensive line, and I think Wirfs will play. They're a balanced team. I think the Bucs should be able to run the ball and lean on their running game. Liam Cohen has been one of the best offensive coordinators and play callers in football, specifically at the start of games, which is where I could see Tommy DeVito and the Giants having to throw the ball because they'll be trailing in this game. I think that the Bucs will get a lead. I think the Bucs will pounce on them early. And then I think Todd Bowles will be able to unleash a bunch of different blitzes and get after the quarterback that takes a lot of sacks and is not good against pressure. So maybe Brian Daboll has a trick up his sleeve with this Italian quarterback, but I don't necessarily see it being consistent. I think that the Bucs are just generally underrated offensively, underrated at quarterback. And I think defensively, off of a bye week, being that Bowles is their coach, a defensive guy, I think he'll have some fixes for this defense for what's ailing them right now. So I'm going to take the Bucs to win, and I'll take the Bucs to cover. I think they'll win probably like 24-17 because I don't quite trust them to blow the Giants out, but I feel comfortable enough that they will cover this game. This has been a debated best bet for me. a debated one. So this is rather going to be just in or just out of my best bets. But I'll take Baker Mayfield off the bye week with Mike Evans back to cover and to win against the Giants in New York. The Giants have also, I know it's been a Daniel Jones thing, but the Giants have sucked at home. Like, let's just throw that out there as well. Like, they suck at home. All right. Let's get to the chat. Big Al's got 24-16, very similar. Kyle says, I heard Evans is planning to return from injury this game. Yup. That being said, I got the Bucs winning. Donald with the thumbs up. Singh's got Bucs 27-13. Christian asking if it is a trap game. I don't think so, because they're coming off a bye week and they need to win every game from here on out pretty much if they want a chance at the playoffs. Is that the next game? Yep. Detroit Lions at the Indianapolis Colts. Guys, if you're asking me about a game like Hunter is, Niners or Green Bay, Luke is saying Cowboys or Washington. I already picked that one, Luke. I'm going Washington. If you're waiting on a game, I haven't talked about it yet, just wait, okay? Or if you have to go, tune in later and tune into that part. Lions at the Indianapolis Colts. Lions are going to win, I think. But I've heard good reasoning behind why the Colts could cover this game. This is a tricky spot for the Lions. I don't necessarily think this game really matters that much for the Lions. It's not an NFC game. It's not a divisional game. It's on the road. And it's playing a team that kind of matches up okay with the Lions. Like, when you think about the Colts' strengths, they've got, for example, they've got a really good nickel corner to take on Amon-Ra St. Brown. They've got a pretty feisty defensive line. They've got a plethora of talented receivers who can beat man coverage. The Lions love to play man coverage. Their offensive line is typically pretty solid. They've got balance offensively. Richardson can run, and being that the Lions like to play a lot of man, the ability to scramble is useful. Also, the Colts are kind of competing for a playoff spot, so I know that that's crazy to say, but they're kind of sneaking up on the wild card race in the AFC. So this game could be closer than people think. I wouldn't be shocked by that. I kind of just want to pick the Lions because of how well they're playing and because I don't trust Anthony Richardson. And I kind of feel like, on one hand, like he could make a lot of big throws down the field against a team that likes to play a lot of man coverage. We've also seen Lions have quite a few injuries defensively. They continue to pile up. Alex Anzalone, I believe, will be out as well. So that's another one at linebacker. But there could be plays where, let's say, Josh Downs makes a play down the field. But there could also be plays where Richardson, just against tight windows, he just doesn't throw the ball very well against tight windows. And it's inaccurate. It's behind the receiver. It's tipped up in the air, something. Like, I think his erratic accuracy, that's interesting against man coverage. It kind of depends on how well the Colts can separate at that point. Like, if they can get open enough where the accuracy is less of an issue, then that makes it a good matchup for Richardson. But at the same time, it also makes those completions probably less. Usually man coverage, there's completion percentage drop against man coverage for a reason, because the windows are tighter. The Colts have been playing sneaky well, but even last week, they played a pretty bad Jets team, and there was a chance that they could have lost that game. There was definitely a chance. Game was very close. So I'll take the Lions to win and cover, but I think the game will be close for the Colts to cover. And 7.5 makes it potential that there's a back door. But I kind of see it like 31-21. I think the Lions will win by like 10. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they lose this game. Who knows? It's the NFL. They are the best team in football. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I do think they can run the ball a little bit against the Colts. They've been up and down against the run, although better as of late. I do think that Goff will be able to make some plays. I just don't think Richardson will be consistent enough for me to trust him to cover this spread and make it a touchdown game, make it a one-score game. I just don't think Richardson is consistent enough, although he's coming off maybe his best game as a passer that I've ever seen him play. But that was against a high school defense. The Jets defense is pathetic right now. And they played Aaron Rodgers. I'm not trying to buy into that too much. I'll take the Lions to win and cover, but it does scare me. I definitely will not make this a best bet. There's no question. All right. The Kansas City Chiefs at the Carolina Panthers. I like the Chiefs to win and cover, actually. Now, this is surprising because the Chiefs, typically I like to hate on them for one, but then also they are not good with big spreads, and that's what everyone is going to be telling you. But they're coming off a loss, and I just see this as a very good matchup for Kansas City. I know the game's on the road, but when you look at the Bryce Young-led offense for Carolina, they like to run the ball a lot. Kansas City, actually, their strength defensively this year has been their run defense. Even against a team like Buffalo, they held their running backs in check. Bryce is not an option running the ball. He's too small. He's too slow. I'm not worried about that. So I think the Chiefs will be able to slow down the Panthers' running game, which ultimately will force Bryce Young into exposable situations. 2nd and long, 3rd and long, okay? That's where Steve Spagnuolo will feast with blitzes, with confusing coverages. That's going to result in sacks, negative plays, and turnovers for Bryce Young, who I personally, despite him playing better, I personally believe is still one of the worst quarterbacks in football and is not a starting quarterback in the NFL. Okay, the Panthers do have a good offensive line, and they are a little bit healthier now. I think Adam Thielen's returning. Brooks is playing his first taste of NFL action. Defensively, I think they're getting 1 or 2 guys back potentially off of the bye. But I don't trust the offense of the Panthers to score enough points against this Chiefs defense. That's going to be angry and on their P's and Q's because they got absolutely torched by Josh Allen and the Bills offense. On the flip side, I just don't know how the Panthers consistently slow down the Chiefs. The Chiefs, I just feel like will be able to run the ball. The Panthers are not good against the run. I think whether it's Pacheco or Hunt, I think they'll run the ball efficiently, which is what the Chiefs need to be able to do. That will open up some plays. The Panthers are not good against tight ends. They're 2nd worst in fantasy against tight ends. So I think Kelsey, Gray, and others will have success. On top of that, I could see Mahomes hitting a couple big shots when the Panthers decide to blitz Mahomes. Maybe Worthy gets a big play down the field, or Hopkins, because the Panthers don't have much of a pass rush, specifically their edge rush, which is where the Chiefs are exposable, their tackle position. So I don't really see how the Panthers are able to give a threat to the Chiefs. Plus, the Chiefs are probably, I'm not going to say they're hungry here, but they're probably a little bit pissed with how they played against Buffalo, and they need a little bit of a bounce back. So I think they'll control the game offensively, go on long, sustained drives, and I think their defense will just suffocate Carolina. And I agree with Big Al. I see a 34-17 type of game. Could Peasy be right with a 27-17 and the Panthers cover? Yeah, potentially. But I actually do see the Chiefs getting closer to 30 here. 30-13, 27-13, maybe 28-13. I could see 34-17. So I don't believe in Carolina's defense enough for me to take the points. I don't believe in Bryce Young enough for me to take the points. So I'll take Kansas City to win, Kansas City to cover. Kyle says, Chiefs win by at least 2 touchdowns coming off a loss. The Bills right behind them in the playoff race. They will get back to their winning ways. Also, Chiefs are my favorite team. All right. Next up, we got the Tennessee Titans at the Houston Texans. I just made a video about the Texans, how I think they're a dark horse Super Bowl contender, but that does not mean that I think they're going to cover this game. I'm going to take the Titans with the points, but I'll take the Texans to win. There's a couple reasons. I think Tennessee actually matches up okay with the Texans, other than, the Texan pass rush against the Titan O-line. But the Titans just generally are a very hard team to figure out because they've been awful against the spread this year, but it doesn't correlate with how they've played. A large reason they're so bad is because their special teams is awful and just fluky stuff, like the refs screwing them last week, or like turnovers, like Will Levis making the dumbest throw you've ever seen, or like just dumb stuff. Like games against Detroit or games against, you look at the games they played, like the Chargers game, like they didn't cover those games, right? But at the same time, you look at the box score and you watch the game and it's like, well, were they totally outplayed? In my opinion, no, not really. Like they weren't totally outplayed. There's a hair right here flying in the air. So I think this is a game for Tennessee where it's a divisional matchup. Their defense is still playing really well. They don't give up a lot of explosive plays. They're one of the best defenses in football at not giving up explosive plays. When I watch the Texans offensively, I think they struggle when they don't create explosive plays. They struggle to tie together long drives because their offensive line is suspect. I do think the Titans can put a cap on Nico Collins down the field and make them go play to play to play to play and string together those drives. Plus, the Titans are hard to run the ball on. I think this will be a tougher game for Joe Mixon. The Titans have a good pass rush, especially on the interior where the Texans struggle to block. And Stroud will probably have another pretty tough game from a consistency standpoint. Both of these teams will probably struggle to block the other. I think this is probably going to be more of a defensive game. I think there will be probably a lot of penalties. But I think the Texans will ultimately win because they've got more playmakers, they've got a better quarterback, and they've got still a very good defense against a pretty underwhelming, mistake-prone quarterback. But I think Tennessee, I watched the Texans. This might be another game where they decide to sit a couple players like Will Anderson. Like they've been kind of sitting some guys to get them healthy for down the stretch. So that's also another thing why I think they could cover. I do think we've seen the Texans give up some big pass plays down the field, and Will Levis is very good at that area of the game, at getting an explosive pass or two. And that's kind of been their weakness of their defense, in my opinion, is those explosive passes. And I think that Tennessee is just a better team than they've been showing. And I think this price and this spread is a little inflated because of that. So I'll take the 8.5. I'm going to go 23-17 Houston. I think they win by 6. But you're getting a full 8.5 here, a full possession. So the Texans have to win a possession plus 2-pointer, right? So they have to win by 2 scores. I just think that's a little bit too much in a divisional matchup. So I'll take Tennessee with the points. I'll take the Texans to win. They're the better team. I think it's time for them to just string together these victories and continue to refine offensively. And if they can find their rhythm offensively down the stretch, put that together with a healthy Texan defense, that's a dangerous team entering the playoffs. I really want to see how they play against Baltimore and against Kansas City, because those are going to be very, very interesting games. Those are games that are going to indicate, with Houston fully healthy defensively once they get all their guys back, that's going to indicate how good the Texans are, how big of a threat they are, okay? But looking forward to those matchups. I think they'll get away with a win here, but don't expect them to blow the Titans out. Jay Peasy's got 23-17. Okay, cool, nice. We got some good scores. Oh, and so does Big Al. All right, love it. Houston wins, Tennessee covers. Not confident about the Titans covering, but I'll go with it. Kyle says, how many division games this week? Seems like a lot. Yes, that's true. He's got the Texans in this one. Claire says the Titans suck. Claire, you're not wrong about that. But I do think the Titans, out of all the teams that suck, typically, from just a yards perspective, their defense hangs in every game. Their defense plays strong every game. They don't give up a lot of easy yardage. They don't give up a lot of easy plays. It's the little things with the Titans. It's the turnovers. It's the special teams. It's the penalties. That's what's backbreaker. And at some point, those are going to reverse. At some point, those are going to get a little bit better. And the Texans as well are a team that, let's be honest, they've shot themselves in the foot this year a lot too. All right, next. The Denver Broncos at the Las Vegas Raiders. Denver is favored by 6, coming off a massive win over Claire's Atlanta Falcons. I think the entire world is going to expect Denver to blow out the Raiders, and that's why I'm going to take the points with the Raiders, but I'm going to take Denver to win. I don't think that the Raiders will win this game. I think Denver is a much superior team, far better coached. At this point, they've got the better quarterback. The pass protection is very, very good for them, and I think they've found a rhythm offensively. Plus, defensively, they're one of the top 10 defenses in football, Denver. I wouldn't probably put them in the top 5, but they're in the top 10. The Raiders, though, if you look back at the first game, okay, the Raiders were up 10-0. I think it was 10-0 in the first game in Denver. And then the Raiders drove down the field and threw a 99-yard pick six. That catapulted into a Broncos win and a Broncos cover. I just think these teams typically play very close. And if you look at the recent rivalry, the Raiders have won more than they've lost. Plus, the Raiders as well have beaten the Broncos at home pretty consistently. So this is one of those divisional things where I feel like the Raiders will hang around in the game. I was also kind of impressed by the Raiders after their bye week against Miami, just moving the ball. I thought offensively they looked decent. I thought Minshew put together and strung together some drives. Brock Bowers continues to be a beast. And I think that, they've got enough offensively. Plus, they've played Denver already to the point where they might be able to string together a couple drives to make this one competitive. So Edgar says that the Raiders' secondary defense is all out. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't really know who's going to be out yet. Obviously, it's only Wednesday. But Bennett and Hobbs are in red on their depth chart, so we'll have to see down the road. But just by the basis of it being an AFC West matchup, a Denver team coming off a huge win where everyone is going to buy into them, I think they'll just come back down to earth. I just don't think they'll give their 100% best effort, and the Raiders, because of it, will hang around. Plus, I feel like the Raiders' defense can be competitive in this game and hold it to one possession. So I'll take Denver to win, Raiders to cover. Let's go. I like your guys' scores. Broncos beat my Raiders. JPZ says 24-20. Big Al's got 24-20. I'm going to go. I don't want to copy you guys. I'm going to go 21-17 21-17 for a score. Broncos win. They get by. Edgar says Minshew pick 6 was when I checked out of the season. Kyle says I got the Broncos winning. They might be a sneaky playoff team if they make it in. I don't know about that. I kind of think they're nothing more than a wild card team. I don't know if they'll end up actually winning any playoff games. I think they could give a competitive game, but I don't necessarily feel like they'd win. It's tough to win in the playoffs with a rookie quarterback. I will say that. Big Al says Broncos 24, Raiders 20. Denver wins. Vegas covers. Won't be surprised if the Raiders win. Champy says go Cards. What's up, Champy? How you doing, man? Thanks, guys, for joining the chat. Appreciate the 85 viewers joining me live right now. Guys, we have only 37 likes and 85 viewers. That's not even half. So Gronk spiked the like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I know a number of you haven't, so make sure to subscribe. All right, so I got Broncos to win, Raiders to cover. We are getting to the marquee games. This is where I'm going to pull up the outlier to help us out with any trends and any side bets that we can make on these games. Let's start off with the Cardinals and the Seahawks. The Cardinals are favored by 1 point, and I have had the feeling all week to pick Seattle. I'm just going to trust my gut, and I'm going to pick Seattle. And I know that Champy's going to hate me here, but that's okay. Okay? I thought Seattle played really well last week against San Francisco. First of all, San Francisco's been a team that's owned them over the years. That's first and foremost. I feel like Seattle's defense has shown major improvement over the last 2 weeks. They did a great job against Kyren Williams and the Rams. They did a great job against Christian McCaffrey. Now they've got James Conner on deck in this Cardinals running game. I love how Mike McDonald has been changing his defense. I think their run defense is greatly improved. They're all healthy on the defensive line, which has really helped. I feel like Seattle actually matches up well with Arizona. Like when you look at their recent history, and I know the Cardinals are better this year than in recent years, but I think they've won like their 5 straight matchups or 5 out of the last 6 or something to that degree. Like Seattle has kind of owned the Cardinals as an organization. I'd also say like they match up well defensively, Seattle. Reek Woolen against Marvin Harrison, for example. I think that's an interesting matchup. Size and speed on size and speed. Seattle's improvement in the running game thanks to Ernest Jones and the health of their defensive line. And I do think that McDonald will not allow Kyler to extend plays like crazy. I think he'll have a good plan for how to contain him and how to rush him. On the other side, I think Geno actually matches up good with the Cardinals because Geno's had his best games against teams that don't have an amazing 4-man rush. The Cardinals are very creative with how they blitz and how they get pressure. But if you do get a little bit too antsy to send blitzes against Seattle, they have one of the best receiving cores in football. They've got DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith-Njigba who feast against one-on-one coverage. And Kenneth Walker's always a threat as well. This game's also in Seattle, and at some point, Seattle's due to win at home. It's been an embarrassment as of late at home. Champy says, who's going to cover Trey McBride? I would expect Julian Love to probably cover him, but I will say that the weakness of Seattle in coverage this year has been tight end, and a big thing that hurt the Niners was not having George Kittle. So I do think that actually was a huge difference maker in who won the game. But I do think that Love, definitely I think McBride will be the guy that moves the chains and has the best game for the Cardinals. But I think that Marvin Harrison and the run game will be a little bit more limited than in other games. And I do think, even if it becomes a shootout, which is not something I expect, I think it'll be kind of like lower 20s. I think Geno can hang in a shootout because he's excellent in 2-minute drill. I think the receivers have matchups against the Cardinals, and that's the type of game that Geno plays well in. So I'll take the Seahawks. I was very impressed by their defense last week, and even the week before. I thought they only lost to the Rams because of Geno throwing picks in the red zone, and one of them was a pick 6. So if not, I mean, how many points do the Rams actually score if they don't get the pick 6, and they scored a touchdown in overtime as well? So I don't know. Seattle is trending up. Arizona has played really well as of late. I do think, though, they benefited from playing a down bad Bears team and Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. So this feels like the peak of the Cardinals in terms of how people think of them. Like, I think some people have them like at the end of the top 10. Some people have them at 11 through 13 in their power rankings. But we'll see. If the Cardinals win this game, I think that only continues to progress into them winning their division. I think they at least have to split with this team, the Seahawks. They still got another Niners game on deck. But out of all the teams in the West, they do have the easiest schedule moving forward. And I do wonder, Kyler's been in the news a little bit lately for eating pizza with some random guy. Kyler was having some fun over the bye week. I know that the Kyler jokes are getting a little old, but it feels like I saw the guy at UFC. Bro's eating pizza on the street. I'm sure he was playing plenty of Call of Duty, bro. Like, I don't know if Kyler's going to be locked in like he was pre-bye week when he was in the role of the season. He might have taken a little bit of a break there. So there's always the Kyler factor. What Kyler are we going to get? We'll see. But I like Seattle. That's been my gut all week, so I'm just going to stick with it. I think the Cardinals will win the next game, probably. All right, let's take a look at Outlier and see any trends for this game. Let's see. Where is it? Are we good? Should be good. All right, there we go. So Geno Smith has failed to exceed 1.5 touchdowns in 7 of his last 8 games at home. That's 88%. It's minus 115 on Outlier if you want to play that prop. I personally don't love that prop for this game because, like I said, I think they will be throwing the ball down the field quite a bit. Marvin Harrison has failed to exceed 54.5 receiving yards in 6 of his last 7 games. The under is at -110. I don't mind that one, as we've discussed. Trey McBride has exceeded over 5.5. That's not bad at +100. That's 86%. The Cardinals are 4-8 in their last 12 games on the road. That's also something you have to consider. The Cardinals have been a very good home team this year, but they've been a little lackluster on the road in comparison, I would say. Just off the top of my head, I know they beat the Niners in San Fran, but otherwise I don't really remember the games that they've won on the road. James Conner has exceeded 70.5 rushing yards in 5 of his last 6 games against bottom 10 defenses for rushing yards. I would probably stay away from that one this game, although Conner has been a beast for my fantasy team all year. Seahawks are 1-6 against the spread in their last 7 games at home, which would indicate, hey, take the Cardinals. We already talked about that. Seattle's been terrible at home this year for some reason. The over has hit in 6 of Seattle's last 9 games as a favorite, 47.5 points. Those are some interesting trends. And guys, if you do want to sign up to Outlier to get all these trends and all these insights, the link is in the description, guys. Check it out. Okay. I think you can use my code BLV as well. Go Seahawks. Where's Miss Jennifer when we need her? Where's she go? All right. Big Al says, I have the Cardinals at 12 in his power rankings. Kyle says, this is a tough one. I picked the Cardinals to win, but it is my least confident game of the week. Highest one is the Chiefs. Caesar says, nice trees. Thank you, bro. That's my background on my computer. The San Francisco 49ers at the Green Bay Packers. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Packers are -2. This is a big game. If the Niners win, they have a 54% chance of making the playoffs. If they lose, I think it drops to like 14. So this is a massive game for the 49ers. The Packers, they're in position right now for a wild card spot. But that being said, I think the Packers are a little bit more in jeopardy than a lot of people realize to actually miss the playoffs due to their schedule and also due to how they're playing. So for the Niners, I think Nick Bosa will probably be out. I'm not 100% sure, but probably. I do think the Niners will get back George Kittle and will get back Charvarius Ward this week. Ward has been missing due to his daughter's death, unfortunately, which is a terrible situation. And Kittle was injured last week. Huge loss against Seattle. And San Francisco, their story all year has been, how can we find a way to lose this game? Whether it be missing field goals or, playing terrible special teams or, just losing leads at the end or giving up game-winning touchdowns at the end. Like, that's just how it's been for the 49ers all year. For the Packers, they've been finding ways to win in close games, but they have not been convincing, and they have not been as good as many people expected them to be, including myself. They also, I thought, got outplayed by the Bears. I thought the Bears controlled the game, and I thought the Bears should have won the game, if not for a blocked field goal. That is also a depressing thought, considering how low I was on Chicago before that game, and I actually thought Green Bay would cover that game against Chicago, and I was totally wrong about that. I wasn't even particularly close, to be honest with you. So, just to go based on fundamentals, I am going to pick the Niners because they're simply the more desperate team. That it's just point blank, period. Both these teams, I have the Packers at number 10 in my power rankings. I have the Niners at number 11. And honestly, it's pretty interchangeable in my mind. The Niners are without Bosa, but I know the Packers. The Packers are weird because I think their defense, their whole team is inconsistent. First of all, their whole team is inconsistent, but their defense has not been convincing. I think the Niners have a bounce back performance offensively in this game, thanks to Kittle being back. I think he helps their run game and their pass game. I think the linebackers of the Packers are also a bit of a weakness. I think McCaffrey and Kittle can take advantage of that. And Debo has been questioned all week, and I think Debo needs to respond. So this could also be a big Debo game. This is just a Niners team with championship experience, with playoff experience, they're angry. Feels like for the first time. Their players are talking about how they're angry. They're pissed off. And I haven't heard that from them all year, despite the rhythm of their season and how disappointing they've been. So given they are angry, and given that Kyle Shanahan is a great underdog, I like to back Shanahan as an underdog, especially when his fan base wants him to get fired. So I'll take the Niners. I think Nick Bosa being out definitely hurts, but I like how the Niners defense has played for the most part. I mean, especially on pass defense, they've held up against some of the best quarterbacks and some good passing offenses very, very well. And getting Ward back only helps that. I think that Love has been prone to mistakes and awful turnovers and inaccuracies, which could lead to a turnover. So, yeah, I think the Niners win, but I do think it will be close. I'm going to go like 24-21 or 27-24, somewhere in that range for San Francisco. I think they win by like a field goal. I'll take the points. I think they will upset the Packers just a little bit. I do like the Niners in a teaser this week, for sure. I think they'll keep it within a score because of how desperate they are to win this game. And maybe they lose because Moody misses a field goal, or they get a block punt, or some mumbo-jumbo madness that's been happening. But I'm going to say they don't have that happen this week, and they end up winning the game. And I think the Packers have just been not consistent enough. And I think that will allow the Niners to control the pace of the game with their offense, control the time of possession, control the game, which I think is ultimately going to hurt the Packers in this game. Because if the Niners can control this game, that's going to keep that Niners defense fresh, and it's going to be tough to really sustain drives against this team. The Packers are a lot about explosive plays, and I don't think that's the way that you necessarily go about beating the Niners. But I could see the Packers maybe having success running the ball more so than other teams that have played the Niners this year. There's been a couple that have been able to do it. The Cardinals were one of them. Maybe the Packers can run the ball, which will set up other things for their offense and help their offense be more consistent in this game. But that being said, they could run the ball against the Bears, and it still was kind of like, it was spotty because their defense could never get control of the game on the other side. Swift ran the ball really well. I'm just looking at this like the Packers got lucky last week. The Niners, not so much. Flip this week. Take the team that's more desperate. So, yeah. Let's take a look at outlier for this game as well. See if there's any trends. Also, it's been a long time since the Niners have been an underdog, which I think is also pretty interesting, because I don't remember the last time you could bet the Niners as an underdog. I think it's been at least a season, like probably a full season since the Niners had been an actual underdog in a game. McCaffrey has exceeded 73.5 rushing yards in 11 of his 13 games. I could see him having a big game here. He has not been great the first two games back, but if there were ever a time for him to play his best, I think you're getting probably a pretty reduced price at 73.5 against a defense that I think you can run the ball on. So that's an interesting one to me. Debo has failed to exceed half a touchdown in 7 of his last 8 games. That's not really worth it at the price. Niners are 7-2 in their last 9 games on the road. Maybe they're better on the road than they are at home. That's interesting. The under has hit in 4 of the Packers' last 6 home games. 47.5 is the total. Also check for the weather. This game is in Green Bay. This game is at Lambeau. It could be cold. There could be rain. There could be snow. I don't think so. I haven't heard that yet, but just throwing that out there. It's a possibility. 47.5 is a pretty high number, though. Especially with how the Niners defense has been playing. The Niners are 4-10 against the spread in their last 14 games. This is something where I think the line has finally been adjusted for the Niners. Like, I feel like the Niners, from a books perspective, from a Vegas perspective, they've rarely been undervalued all year. And this might be the first time that they're actually undervalued. What else? Christian Watson has failed to exceed 43.5 receiving yards. I wouldn't do that just based on how he played last week. Juwan Jennings is another guy. Look to bet on him. He's been absolutely incredible lately. Anything else? Yeah, Juwan Jennings has been their best receiver, in my opinion. Okay, let's get back to it. We've got Sunday night football. Is this Sunday night football or Monday night football, Big Al? The Eagles and the Rams. Regardless, this is one of the primetime games. We also got the Ravens and the Chargers, which I think is Monday, but it might be Sunday. Big Al, confirm it for me. I know you're the Eagles guy. Eagles at the Rams. This one is weird because I kind of have this feeling the Rams might win this game, but I also feel like the Eagles should win this game. Like, in my mind, I think the Eagles are going to win, but I also have this gut feeling the Rams might win. So let's just go through it. So first of all, there was some Jalen Hurts news today, which would indicate, is he okay? Is he all right? I think so. I'm not too concerned about it, but it's something to bring up. There was some Jalen Hurts limited today in practice, which typically happens. It's on Sunday night. All right, thank you. I think this game will be close, though. So let's go through it. So I think the Eagles against the Rams. Offensively, the Rams are the type of defense that I could see giving Jalen Hurts some issues because they're creative with their blitzes. They have a good front seven. They're decent stopping the run. They've got a lot of young athletic guys that can run down the quarterback. And they play a lot of zone. Now, that being said, the Rams also give up a lot of explosive passes, which the Eagles are very good at hitting those plays. Usually, it's just when Hurts sees one-on-one, he just throws the ball up. I could also see Dallas Goedert having a good game. And I'm not sure the Rams defense is quite good enough against the run to the point where they're going to shut down Saquon the way that he's playing. So could that offset where the Eagles are able to push around the Rams a little bit? Maybe. That also being said, will the Eagles' offensive line, being that it's so good, will they actually be able to block the Rams and allow the Eagles to be able to, make plays down the field? So it's kind of like which matchup is going to win out. Are the Rams going to have a good game plan to how to slow down Hurts? Because it feels like even Washington was kind of pretty competitive against this Eagles offense, especially early in the game. But then once the Eagles kind of figured them out and they started to get to running the ball, they were able to overwhelm them. But that being said, Washington is a lot worse against the run than the Rams are. Okay? On the other side, it's Stafford, Puka, and Kupp against a really good defense, but a defense that I think Stafford can, more so than others, have success against because he is a pocket precise passer, and I feel like a guy like Jaden Daniels doesn't match up well with the Eagles. The offenses the Eagles have played, I guess you could say Joe Burrow didn't have his best game. He was having a good game until halftime, and then they fell apart. Stafford played unbelievable against the Patriots last week. I will say that. Will the Rams be able to run the ball really effectively? I'm not sure. We look back at Fangio and McVay, and Fangio was one of those first coaches when he was in Chicago that was able to kind of dumbfound McVay with Jared Goff. That's a deep-seated type of thing. But Puka Nacua is a dog. Like, as good as Quinion and Slay have been in that secondary, Nacua is just a beast. And Kupp, he's very, he's able to get inside and pick up those yards when needed. I do think the Rams, and Aaron makes a good point, their offensive line has been inconsistent. I thought they were a bit better against the Patriots, but they were pretty bad the week before against Miami. Now, how much of that is guys returning from injury against Miami, not having, a lot of chemistry together, not a lot of rust taken off yet, and against New England, they improved a little bit. Maybe. Or New England's pass rush isn't just not as good as the Dolphins. Maybe that too. So, I'm going to go Eagles to win, Eagles to cover, thinking it through. Because I think ultimately the Eagles strengths will outweigh the Rams. But I wouldn't be shocked if the Rams made this game very dangerous. If Hurts starts this game slow and methodical and he's not reading the coverage well and the Rams are twisting their safeties around and this guy's coming down in the box and this guy's flaring out and this guy's dropping into coverage and this guy's coming on a blitz and Hurts is just, he's blind half the time. He can't see. If Hurts is playing like that for the first half and Stafford's playing lights out and he's getting the ball out quick, he's throwing missiles, and the Rams get the lead, like, I wouldn't be shocked at all. I really wouldn't. But at the end of the day, I think the Eagles stop the run better. I think the Eagles run the ball better. I think they're overall the more talented team. They've been the overall more consistent team. And I think they will win. But I don't know, bro. This game's going to be interesting. It's a little scary. JPZ 31-27. Claire's got Rams to cover. Dakota says, I missed the Broncos-Raiders preview. All I'm going to say is that Bo Nix Cope is at an all-time high. If we make the playoffs, my timeline is going to be filled with receipts. Sing's got 26-23 right on the spread. Eagles 27, Rams 20 for Big Al. Philadelphia wins and covers. LA will put up a fight, but we'll pull it out. Eagles-Rams is on Sunday night. So that's my thoughts on Sunday night. Let's check out any trends from Outlier on Sunday night. Okay. We got one more game to go, guys. Eagles are 4-9 against the spread in their last 13 games as a favorite. They have failed to cover the last 2 as a favorite? I thought they just covered as a favorite against the Commanders. Oh, wait. Yeah, I don't know if the red is indicating that they've covered or if the red is indicating that they didn't cover. Okay, yeah. So they've covered their last 2 as a favorite against Washington and Dallas. They didn't cover against Jacksonville. They covered against, so they've covered 3 out of their last 4. That's a little misleading because they were so bad at the end of last year. But that's interesting to look at. Rams are 3-10 in their last 13 games as an underdog on the money line. McVay and Stafford have not done well as underdogs lately. Okay. They did beat the Vikings, though. Nakua has exceeded 67.5 receiving yards in 6 of his last 7 at home. I would probably take the over on that, not going to lie. Stafford has exceeded half an interception in 4 of his last 5 games. If you like the Eagles, this is another bet to play. Stafford to throw an interception. The under has hit in 8 of the Rams' last 12 games at home. Under 49.5. I would take under 49.5. That's a big number for this game. Big number. I think that, yeah, I think, like we talked about, I think the Rams defense can have a little bit of success. I think the Eagles defense has been playing really well, but again, it is the Eagles' high potent attack against Stafford, Nakua, and Kupp, so you never know. Saquon has exceeded 16.5 longest rush in 4 of his last 5 games on the road. Saquon. Stafford has failed to exceed 1.5 touchdowns in 5 straight games versus top 10 defenses for passing touchdowns. Minus 130. Saquon has exceeded 93.5 rushing yards in 4 of his last 5 games. Kyron to score a touchdown. 8 of his last 9 games at home. Kyron to score a touchdown, baby. Lock it in. All right. Our last game is the Baltimore Ravens at the Los Angeles Chargers. Guys, before our last game, Gronk spike the like button and subscribe, man. Don't forget it. Thank you so much for your support. Let's talk about Monday Night Football. Ravens at the Chargers. I've been back and forth on this one thinking about the game, but again, I'm leaning into my gut. I'm leaning into my intuition. My intuition suggests the Ravens will win. The Ravens will cover. That's what my intuition says. Chargers, they won on a primetime spot against the Bengals. I think a lot of people, because of that, are going to be into betting the Chargers this week. I think on top of that, The Ravens lost to a Steelers team that people are kind of calling frauds and all that, but the Ravens always lose to the Steelers. It doesn't really bother me that much. I thought the Chargers defense got exposed a little bit against the Bengals, just in terms of the explosive passes down the field. I do think Lamar needs kind of a bounce back game. He hasn't really been playing amazing. Last week he didn't play amazing. I think he'll get a little bit back into the fold, especially in terms of when you think about that Bengals game, the ad-lib plays. I think he can make some things happen. Joe Burrow did. I think Lamar can do the same. And I don't think the Chargers have taken on a running game quite like this all season. John Harbaugh, for what it's worth, also beat Jim Harbaugh in the Super Bowl once upon a time. I don't know if that matters at all, but I do recall John Harbaugh beating Jim Harbaugh. So I don't know if that matters. I think Herbert will have success through the air. I think the Chargers will have time for Herbert to throw the ball, but I do think the Chargers will struggle to run the ball a bit. They struggled against the Bengals. We said that would probably happen. I think they'll struggle again against the Ravens, which will bring some more inconsistency to their offense. So can the Ravens, like the Bengals secondary, step up and play feistier in this game when the moments matter most? Third down and in the second half, 2-minute situations. Can they lock up in those situations? I think that there is a chance the Ravens can do that given the receiving core of the Chargers. I think if the Ravens roll out there and they play a ton of soft zone, I think Herbert will destroy them. But I think if they mix it up, they blitz a little bit, they play a little bit of man, they play a little bit of zone, which I think they should, I think the Ravens will have their moments of success defensively because I think the Chargers receiving core is pretty limited. And this isn't like playing the Bengals in terms of, that receiving core. So I think the Ravens respond after a loss. The Chargers got a little fortunate last week with Money Mac missing 2 consecutive field goals. I'm going to take the Ravens. Ravens to win, Ravens to cover. Love how Herbert's playing. I like the Chargers, but I do still think the Ravens are the better team, and I think Lamar's a better quarterback at the end of the day. What's an interesting matchup that could help the Chargers too? Like their edge rush, maybe? Their edge rush. Will Khalil Mack be back for this game? Maybe. I think Zay Flowers needs a big game too. I think he needs a big game. Will Deontay Johnson please finally show up? He hasn't shown up yet as a Raven. Let's check out what the stuff says. Dylan Rice says the Chargers are very similar to the Steelers. Sort of. I really don't think the Chargers defense is as good as a reputation. I thought that the Bengals kind of showcased that on Sunday night. But I do think their offense is a little bit better than people give it credit for, though. The primetime games are going to be pretty nice. Thursday night might be a little ugly. Henry has scored a touchdown in 12 straight games. The Ravens are 6-3 against the spread in their last 9 games on the road. That's 66.7%, guys. That's pretty good. The Ravens are 8-3 in their last 11 games on the road on the money line. The under has hit in 19 of the last 25 games for the Chargers. Wow. Okay. Lamar has exceeded 44.5 rushing yards in 10 of his last 13 games. It's minus 119 at Prize Picks. Herbert has exceeded 246.5 passing yards in 4 of his last 5. Yeah, I would take the over rushing for Lamar and the over passing for Herbert. I definitely would. JPZ got Ravens 28-27. Yeah, this could definitely, this could be Ravens win, Chargers cover. Not going to lie. It could be a 2-point game. It could be a 1-point game. That's entirely possible as well. All right, guys, those are my week number 12 picks. Hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown and my preview for every game. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you haven't already, consider signing up to Patreon. That's where you can get all of my bets every week. $10 a month for all of my bets. Last week, we hit our best bet. Big time teaser. Thursday night football, we had a ton of success, as well as Monday night football as well. Those were our big winnings on Patreon. Last few weeks on Patreon, we've been pretty darn solid as well. If you want to become a YouTube member, you can. Starts at $3 a month just to support me. You get some cool badges. You get the best bets on the channel early, all that sort of stuff. And you can support my journey as a creator if you like what I'm doing here on the Bottom Line View. Nathan says the defense fell apart when Cam Hart went out and Christian Fulton was still limited. Also, the offense left the defense out to dry in the second half, just for context. Oh, you're right, Nathan. I don't disagree. The offense sputtered, but I think there's a chance they sputter against the Ravens too a little bit. Because I think the Ravens, despite lacking success against the pass this year, I do think they've played a tough schedule for one of pass offenses. And two, they still got individual talent at corner and safety. Just as the Bengals, struggled on defense, but they've got some individual talent. I think the Ravens have more. And the Ravens are just a juggernaut offensively all year. So we'll see how the Chargers match up overall against the Ravens. This will be maybe a playoff preview type of game. Looking forward to it. But thank you guys so much for watching. It's Mitch. Appreciate you. We'll see you later. Deuces.